The last time I rooted for somebody's downfall in a agonizing, awful
The last time
way,
you rooted for someone's downfall.
a television character,
Okay.
not a real life person, was probably Joffrey Baratheon from Game of Thrones. I wish that man would die in 7 million just horrendous ways.
Fair.
He has now been replaced. Joffrey, you are free now. It is Jonasi Gamora from The Polygamist. I pray
I've never
that he
watched.
Watch The Polygamist.
It's
You gotta
supposed
watch
to be
it.
good. Okay.
It's very good. And it drags you through the depths of hell and back. You will feel like you need therapy afterwards, but it's so very good. And that's how you know a character is great.
I don't know
when
if
you
I
have
wanna,
that hatred for them.
I don't know if
I might try to
watch
fight
that.
this dude in real life.
I don't need to be dragged to the depths of hell in another drama. I have my own drama.
I know, but at least you know this drama is fake and not with real people. All right. At least you know that. Unlike the WNBA, which is like real life, 24-hour, all the time drama. What makes the drama even more exhausting because it's like a drama mixed in with a race war happening at the same time. And it's like, Lord, please spare me.
Well, I don't know if that's going to be possible. I got so frustrated going through the timeline today or yesterday, this whole weekend since I've been back from Cannes. And I'm like, yo, this is driving me insane. Like the conversations, the thought process, the comments. And I have to believe that they're all bots. They can't be real humans who feel this way. Like it has to be all bots. It can't be real. You don't want to break it down to me. You're like, Cari, wait, hold on.
It is a lot of bots. But there are some people with some pretty big megaphones who you would think if you didn't know they were real people, you'd be like, that has to be a bot because surely somebody can't be that stupid. Oh, but they are.
The reality is, and people get pushed back all the time. There's so many people to discuss in the WNBA, and you are focused on Caitlin Clark and her and what she did. And the reason that is because I can't remember. And we've been covering sports for a long time. I can't remember the way in which the fascination of covering Caitlin has been exponential. And I think a lot of what we're doing is trying to remove the emotion out of it. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't because we're passionate. But if CNN calls me just to discuss the scrum as if it's a real thing, and I'm like, tell me what you think the scrum is. So they have Christine Brennan on. And she has been touting, right, because she wrote a book about Caitlin Clark, and she has been touting that maybe Caitlin just go and start her own league. And then she also has said that the league really needs to get a handle on this situation. I'll start with where the commonalities are. We all agree that the league needs to have some sort of coalition, some sort of whether it be they work with other groups, they need some sort of PR. They need crisis management right away. They need to handle this in a way that is professional. And I am so surprised because this league, primarily owned by the NBA, doesn't have any leadership in this moment. When Adam Silver took over, when he took over as the current commissioner of the NBA, he was in a very, very, very important time. They had to get rid of Donald Sterling. He was an owner of the Clippers and he was racist. He was on camera, caught on camera, saying racist things, saying that his girlfriend should not be with black men and hanging out with black men, using the N-word. You name it, it was clear that this man who was an owner of a team that was the majority of black men was a racist. And the first order of business for Donald Sterling was to address this racist.
Oh, you mean Adam Silver?
Adam Silver, to address this racist, Donald Sterling. And his job was to determine whether or not he would be fined, punished. What was it? From my understanding, you remember it very clearly. Movies have been done about it. Docs have talked about it. The players stood firm. Now, I'm not playing for that man. This man can't be in the league. All players, they came together. Pretty easy decision to make, but still a tough one to make. You must sell your team, is what Adam Silver said. Because this is so unacceptable. You can no longer be an owner. You can no longer be in this actual club when most of your employees will be Black, and we know how you feel about them. Done. No more controversy, nothing else to talk about. Story is dead because it was handled. So you handle something like that, which was so very uncomfortable, which was so very racist, was divisive. It was all the things. And I don't know if during that time it was just more popular not to be a racist, and it's popular to be a racist now. But here we have, and then of course we have to look at Cathy Engelbert and who she is and how she has been handling this situation. She has done, when I say when the smoke comes her way, she does backflips. She Simone Biles up in this. You know what I mean?
She stopped dropping and rolling like they taught us in elementary school.
Dropping and rolling to avoid all of the smoke. You know what I'm saying? You could be asked directly, what do you think? Is this racist? Is this an issue? And it's not even an answer. It's just like, I didn't even hear it, and she's on to something else. That is not what the WNBA needs. And so by all accounts, even though people have a lot of opinions and ring lights and microphones and huge platforms, everyone agrees with the fact that the WNBA has a problem, and that leadership that is currently in place cannot handle this problem because they do not answer and or avoid the issues at hand. And we also agree about the officiating. So here we are. Let's discuss that before we get into the scrum of it all, because I want to lay a foundation. Your thoughts on WNBA leadership and how they handled the Alyssa Thomas, Caitlin Clark situation.
So the WNBA right now is being punished for the sins of underinvestment and from lack of leadership that don't just start with Cathy Engelbert, that stem and go back a long time. The officiating complaints are not new. The players have been complaining about it for a while. And granted, you could say on some level you expect players to do that, but there was clearly, I think when you watched a lot of WNBA games before this particular era, you would see that the officiating did not match the level of ability from the players that you were seeing on the floor. Like, it hadn't adapted. And while certainly you don't want to eliminate all the physicality of the game, but I think it needed to be cleaned up in certain ways so that you got to see more of what these players could do athletically, what they could, the beautiful basketball that they can play, that being a feature. Okay, putting that aside, Cathy Engelbert, if you recall, she was asked about this when we were embroiled in the height of the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark stuff. This is, college has passed on. They're in the league now. People are still talking.
CNBC interview?
The CNBC interview, when she was asked about what you just said about, like, there's been a lot of racism that has popped up because of this. What's your response? And she said she thought it was good for the league. And that was the moment I knew that Cathy Engelbert was not equipped for this moment. A lot of it is because her skill set, at least from based off her resume and what she's done as a commissioner, she's a money person. And they hired her from, I believe, Deloitte & Touche because they needed a capital raise. And so her job was to go out, get the money, sort of help this league financially stabilize itself. And she did that. But as other issues have popped up, be it the officiating, be it this new dynamic and element that is Caitlin Clark, she has failed in a lot of ways. I don't think she understands the unique racial dynamic that the WNBA presents and how that makes it necessary to have a commissioner, a wartime commissioner who understands the complexity of this issues. Yes, you have an amazing superstar that has taken your league's popularity to a new height that it had not yet reached. At the same time, you have a lot of players who created the environment for that to take place. Both of these things can easily coexist. So why do you make it so hard for them to coexist with your lack of leadership? They should have gotten a handle on the narratives that were being established from the beginning by, as you said, by confronting the smoke as opposed to ducking the smoke. Now, granted, it is a balance because you don't want to find yourself answering the bots all the time and the narrative created by social media. But you also have to acknowledge that you can't let social media dominate the narrative of your league. And that is what is happening right now. And this poster controversy that was a non-controversy is the perfect illustration of what I'm talking about. For those who didn't see it, the WNBA is 30 years of of WNBA, 30 years of their existence, they put out a commemorative poster that they innocently tweeted. And on the poster, they have featured 30 players representing the teams in the league, the evolution of the game. The concept of it is supposed to be pretty beautiful and pretty benign. But everybody immediately noticed that Caitlin Clark was not on this poster. Representing the Fever, they have actually Sophie Cunningham, who I know we'll talk about in a moment. But also missing was Maya Moore, Candace Parker, and Diana Taurasi. It may have been others missing, but those are the ones that immediately came to mind. Pretty big superstars who helped to build the league. But of course, the main narrative became, here the WNBA is showing that they don't deserve Caitlin Clark. They don't know how to handle a superstar, blah, 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 blah. And it turns out the truth was not very sexy and did not actually support the narrative. As Darren Ravel, who is a longtime sports business journalist, tweeted, is that this was a likeness issue. Michael Jordan did the same thing. Like those of us who grew up during the Jordan era who played video games, Michael Jordan wasn't on NBA video games because he did not allow them to use his likeness. So you would have to play with the Bulls and it'd just be a random dude that was number 23. It wasn't Michael Jordan. So this is not a new thing. But because of the narrative that has been set that the league is against Caitlin Clark and they don't want her there, a poster turned into a controversy. All they had to do was address it. They didn't. And my main question was, why are you putting out a 30th anniversary poster anyway that doesn't have Maya Moore, Diana Taurasi, Candace Parker, Caitlin Clark? Like, why are you even doing that? If you can't have your biggest legends of the game on the poster, why the hell do you have a poster? And if that's the matter, and if that's the case, 30 years didn't just sneak up on you. You knew 2 years ago you were going to make it to 30 years. Hell, you knew 5 years ago. So if there was a licensing issue to be worked out, you should have worked it out. And once Caitlin Clark got to the league, I would like to think that these conversations have to be taking place with her team to say, listen, we would like to use her in certain ways to promote the league, blah, 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 blah. Because there are some celebrations the WNBA actually they've wanted to do with Caitlin Clark that she has declined, just so people know. And so, but my thing is like, you got to tell her team, hey, I get you. I know y'all trying to make this bread, but if we want this to work for both of us, then we're going to need her to participate a little bit more in certain pageantry-like things. We're going to need that. It's just, it is what it is. But that's leadership. That's what you got to do.
I'm under the impression that her team, and rightfully so, is unimpressed with the WNBA's leadership.
I would be too.
And as a result, they're handling it the way they want to handle it. Does that trickle down to the masses, and will the masses get it? No. Will they get ahead? You're asking them to pre-plan when they have just now started to get this attention. So I'm pretty sure, and this is not like everybody works there, doesn't know what they're doing, but I'm pretty sure they're ill-equipped for this type of attention. And which is why, to my original point, if the NBA really wants to be involved, let them be involved. If they don't want to be involved, they have to back all the way out. You in or you out. You can't tap in and tap out.
I would ask you this. This is one thing that's very interesting about this NBA, WNBA leadership dynamic. Mm-hmm. Adam Silver is the one that put Kathy Engelbert there. And people got to remember that.
Right? He puts everybody in place, but he likes, to your point, he likes the fact that she can make money. And I'm pretty sure he's advising her to duck said smoke when necessary. But just like a lot of people, this is a game of politics. He is now quickly realizing that she's not going to be able to handle this. And if they don't bring in Olivia Pope, they're going to have race wars. Like, it is only a matter of time before someone who does not have anything to lose, who does not care, who is frustrated, expresses that frustration in whatever way. And I'm not saying they're going to go after Caitlin Clark, but it could be anything. Here's my other concern while we are talking about the poor officiating, right? In real time, in game time, watching it and going back to watch it, you're like, it's quick, it's fast, you don't understand. That doesn't mean that it wasn't a flagrant 2. That doesn't mean that it was wrong. Just in game time, the moving so quickly, you may not be paying attention. But I thought it was really interesting when people with cooler heads were able to talk about this in a sense of, what we are watching, to your point, not investing in this game, and now it's coming to pay. It's hurting them. These refs should have known what the tensions were. Whether they from my understanding, refs talk with each team. before the game, whether it be a few minutes, 5 minutes, you talk to the coach, they tell you some things. I don't know if the onus is collectively or just on the refs, but the coaches could have been like, look here, and look, Sophie used to pay for these. Sophie Cunningham played for them for the first 6 years of her career. There's still some issues there. We do know that Dwana had some issues. Like, let's just watch. Let's just be careful. Now, if the coaches and or teams have done that with the refs and they didn't do that, they fell down on the job. Plain and simple, they just fell down on the job. No matter what, they did still fall down on the job. But now it's time to start investing in referees who are actually paying attention. Do I believe that if they got some different refs, more experienced refs, they still would not, these problems would be eliminated? No, there would be problems like this, but there'd be a super vigilance, like hyper vigilance. You know what I mean? You're paying attention more than necessary. You understand what's going on right now because it's gone beyond what's happening on the court. And it's actually front page news everywhere. So now you got to pay attention. You have to pay attention in a way that you weren't paying attention to before. And if that interferes with your job, so be it. Just deal with it. But this is what I have a problem with. I have a problem with you.
Me? Why? Because I'm like, oh, you doing a Sophie point on me? The Sophie Cunningham point, which is now
a viral loving moment. I think it's funny. I think it's hilarious. LOL, exclamation. I want to ask all of the journalists, all of the bloggers, all of the bots, all of the people who are commenting, I want you to choose your words. And the reason why I want you to choose your words when talking about Sophie versus talking about AT versus a white player talking black player, the way that we are discussing white players, because it's just that simple, and black players in this league is completely unfair. When Sophie, and you remember this, had it out with J.C. Sheldon, who has an issue with Caitlin Clark. And
allegedly. That's more of those word on the street.
Word on the street is, you're right. Yeah. In 2025, word on the street was that, well, from college, word on the street was that Sheldon and Caitlin Clark, allegedly, they didn't get along. Who knows? Yes. I don't care. The point of the matter is there was a game in which Caitlin Clark got poked in the eye by Sheldon. Yes. And this was in 2025.
Right. And I believe the poke was accidental, by the way. It was incidental, yes. Right. I believe
Who knows? I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't play the sport. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe it was intentional. All I do know is the point that I'm getting at is that was the incident. That was the scrum. That was the situation.
Right.
And as a result, Sophie said, look, we're up. Game is, in hand. I am going to exact my revenge. Her words. I'm paraphrasing, but essentially her words. And she was then called the enforcer. And she was a doll. People loved it. They liked the way that she literally took Sheldon down by the back of her head and dragged her on the ground. They loved it. Yes. Threw her down. In fact, Sophie has a podcast, and she talked about it on her podcast. What was the aftermath of her getting a flagrant 2 and ejected?
Is that your moment in the WNBA?
Yeah, which is crazy.
And here we got another breakers here as J.C. Sheldon goes right after Sophie Cunningham.
Dude, I'm not even saying, I went from 200,000 on TikTok.
Before the fight.
And then I had like 350, 100,000 on Instagram. Over the night, over 1 million on both. Insane. This is coming from me though, dude. I got tired of seeing myself.
She became an overnight viral sensation. FYI, she became an overnight viral sensation. The words used to describe her weren't bully. They weren't awful. They weren't that she should go to jail. That was an assault.
They didn't accuse her of assault, yes, or abuse, or any of the language that we've heard used about other players
who are involved in some sort of, whether it be second or third hand situation involving Caitlin Clark. In fact, she was loved for it. Protect your teammate. We love what you're doing. Why is that? I know the answer.
Oh, you know the answer.
But I need journalists to be more responsible. I need people covering this league to be more responsible. You're picking and choosing the words when you're describing certain players, white players more specifically, than you are when you're talking about black players. It's offensive. It is Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark all over again. The words used to describe Angel Reese because she pointed her finger and taunted were disgusting. By grown-ass men. They were calling her a thug and she was ghetto. There's no room
Called
for
her the
that
B
in the
word,
sport.
all of that. I mean,
Right up until the line of using that hard N-word. And it's inappropriate. And
it was an implied ER with a lot of the conversation. An implied ER. But Cari, this has historically gone on a lot when it comes to Black athletes in general. Like, even if you want to use the men as a comparative example, for how long did we see how Black quarterbacks were described strictly by their, or just players, not even quarterbacks, and let me not limit it by position, but Black players generally are described as athletic marvels. Their physical feats are overemphasized. Their physical traits, rather, are overemphasized. Meanwhile, when it comes to white players, they're constantly referred to as scrappy students of the game. Like, pretty much what the coded language was, and it wasn't really that subtle, was that Black players are in the position they're in when it comes to achieving things in sports and dominating sports because they hit the genetic lottery. The white people have to work harder. They have to be smarter. They have to outsmart the Black players. That's why for a long time, you didn't see Black quarterbacks in the NFL, because there was a general consensus that Black men were not good leaders, weren't smart enough to play the position. Those same narratives and stereotypes have bled over into the women's game, but you're dealing with the twin dragons of racism and misogyny. As it is, Black women are often painted as overly aggressive, as rude, as combative, and those narratives are showing up horribly in this conversation about Alyssa Thomas and Caitlin Clark. Now, when you watch the play in real time, it's quick and it's fast. And if it really was how some people are disingenuously describing it, then you would have seen nobody from the Fever reacted. Not a single person. Stephanie White didn't. None of the players did. They just kept going. Caitlin Clark, first of all, she tripped on her own, okay? And when she went down, the ball went flying, everybody scrums, goes for the ball. You watch Alyssa Thomas, her eyes never leave the ball. That's what she's going after. And yeah, she inadvertently, and intention doesn't matter. So I understand why she got a flagrant 2. Flagrant 2s intention doesn't matter. So when everybody's like, oh, I can't believe the officials missed it. It's like when you watch it in real time, you see exactly how they missed it because the whole court missed it. Nobody stopped. Nobody started fighting. There was no jawing. There was no pushing. Like, nothing happened. Caitlin Clark, she was slightly dazed. She got up and she kept it moving. She ran right down the court. Nothing. And so,
well, no, she looked like she was in pain. I'm not going to front. Like, and I know that she was like I was like, can she breathe? I'm not going to lie. I'm watching it. She got up and did what she had to do. But that's not her style. Her style isn't to take a nudge.
She kind of always does that.
She embellishes. She has flair with her file. If she gets filed, it's going to be some flair.
I'm not suggesting she wasn't. Maybe she was, but it just in real time, it didn't look like it was serious. Is my point. It did not look like it was serious, and so
in playtime,
it doesn't. Yes. But naturally, what happens on social media, slow mo is the devil, and so slow mo and freeze frame showed up. And all of a sudden, they're taking this photo of Alyssa Thomas with her, which appear, her fist is on her throat. But again, when you watch it in real time, that actually happened very briefly. She fell on her because they were going for the ball. That's how it happened, right?
Sure.
And so Alyssa Thomas, when she gets up, she tries to avoid stepping on Caitlin Clark, who is on the ground beneath her. So if she was really trying to be dirty, she would have definitely tried to step on her. She stepped over her. Anyway. So I say all this to say is the description of events versus the play people actually saw, to your point about language, are so wildly different. I don't want to say who this asshole is, but one particular asshole, a conservative, well-known commentator who has many followers, posted the photo of Alyssa Thomas's hand or her fist on Caitlin Clark's throat and put, "This is our George Floyd moment." And I was like, that's when I knew.
Oh my God.
This shit done really got out of control.
God. That's so disgusting. What? I didn't see that.
Yes, it did. And I was just
how in the world could you even compare the two?
Yeah, you gonna compare a police officer who knelt on somebody's neck for
9
10
minutes. Yeah,
for nearly 10 minutes.
Round up. Yeah,
up.
I
rounded up. Yes, that's why. And I was like, you're going to compare that to this? Use your common sense, people. If first of all, Alyssa Thomas never punched Caitlin Clark in the throat. And I heard so many people describe it that way. If she would have throat punched this girl, do you know they would have needed a stretcher? Like, no, none of that happened. All right. But to your point about language, and not just language, but frankly, deeply rooted stereotypes, it's an easy sell for people. And that is why you have the crowd that's behind Sophie Cunningham. Because it's not just about, like, I don't mind a goon. I'm here for a goon.
By the way, the game gets rewarded. You reward goons. Every team needs an enforcer. Every
Charles Oakley, one of the greatest goons in history.
And people love it. But when it comes to Black women, there is something about a Black woman.
We ain't allowed to be goons.
We're not allowed to be goons. These women. I'm talking about AT. I'm
not in a positive way, I should say.
Exactly. Angel Reese. Anybody who is a Black woman who plays basketball, who talks trash to another woman, specifically white, and she's taller and more physically appropriate or bigger or whatever the word may be. This issue, this consistent issue that there we go. She's a bully. There she go. You and I can relate to this just being in a workspace. This happens in workspaces. I could be being attacked by a colleague who happens to be a white woman, but I'm the problem if I match energy. And so they are on the court and you're saying that she can't play basketball the way that she is supposed to play basketball because she is attacking someone in particular. And everyone has to be honest and everyone has to be fair in this reporting. Some of us are extreme on one way, some of us are extreme on the other way. But if we want to keep the WNBA in its proper place, if we want to continue to watch the sport to grow, it is going to require mature coverage. It's going to require fair coverage. And yes, we're going to have people who are going to have opinions and microphones, but we are going to have to, as a collective, media-wise, we're going to have to really get a hold on how we decide to frame these conversations, because I fear, you mentioned wartime commissioner, I fear we will be at war. And I'm not trying to make it like it's super dramatic.
I think it's already there, basically.
It's already there, but we just need one incident where Caitlin ends up in some sort of position where it seems that someone's attacking her. And I couldn't even imagine what's going on with AT's. Her DMs, how people are treating her when she walks down the street, and she's being quiet and she's taking it because Black women have been taught to do so. And this isn't a support message of like, don't hurt AT, don't hurt AT. This is a message of no one is even considering what she's dealing with in this real moment, which is why we need a wartime commissioner, which is why I'm back to the issue of there needs to be some sort of public conversation where everyone who is a fan of the WNBA or even just a fan of Caitlin Clark can sit and listen to what is happening. I talked to Kim Davis the other day, who is the highest ranking woman at the NHL. She happens to be a Black woman. She's a senior EVP, right? She has talked about what they are dealing with because now they have the Professional Women's League, right? Hockey League. And how they have a fan base that deals with the exact same thing that the WNBA is dealing with, misogyny and racism. And how in the world do they handle it? And she says they have actively put together coalitions because these conversations, they're watching what is happening in the WNBA in real time, and they understand that they need to get ahead of it or grow with it. And they have to grow with it. And with that, we always talk about these growing pains, but what coalitions are being put together? What players are coming together so that they understand how to have this conversation publicly and not just duck the smoke? How they have this uncomfortable conversation about race, how they have this uncomfortable conversation about what it means to have someone like Caitlin Clark, who is arguably the face of the league, whether the players who have been here for 30 years or who are holding it down want to believe it or not, she just is. That's just the circumstances of the time that we're in. That doesn't mean she's the best player. That doesn't mean she deserves all the rights and the money and the attention, but she just so happens to be the face of this league when people think about it. And when they, and so there has to be a conversation where she's involved and she's talking, and there's another conversation where we have some sort of leadership involved and they're talking. It must be controlled. It is at this point right now. And it's not a George Floyd moment. That makes me sick to my stomach to hear that someone would say such a thing. The fact that you try to equate the two is just not. But that is the type of trouble that we are in right now.
Yeah, because the reality is the right and conservatives and what I would call the bad faith actors are holding up Caitlin Clark as their white grievance Batman or Batwoman. And that narrative is going to persist. There is no way in the world, girl, they discussed this on Good Morning America. And I was like, why? Why is this on Good Morning America? It was, and of course, Fox News can't help itself. This was like the ultimate racial pornography for them. So this was nonstop conversation there. And in all these places where, let's just say journalism, with the exception, obviously, not of Good Morning America, but like it was in a lot of spaces where, let's just say journalism isn't being practiced. And it's tough now. You talk about building that coalition, which I believe is the right thing to do. But I am concerned that this has advanced to the point where I don't know if they can undo and unwind this clock. And
well, you can't, but it's very similar to what they're doing in soccer, right? Like, 'cause soccer has ignored their racism problem for a very long time. So ahead of the World Cup, when a player, known to talk trash to other players could be saying something racist, there are these identifiers. Like, you can do, I don't necessarily know that's what you need here, but you got to start somewhere, friend. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, like they can't just throw their hands up and say no. I do think it comes with having the commissioner that is also someone who is comfortable being out there a little more. Like, I'm sorry, Kathy Engelbert being silent is not going to work. She needs to be way more proactive, and she needs to reestablish narratives. Now, All-Star Weekend is a month away, roughly. And I think that is, granted, I would say she shouldn't wait that long, but she'll probably do like most commissioners and use that as an opportunity to speak to the media. And of course, we know from previous All-Star Weekends, like, she's a little more visible. She needs to be on everything that weekend. And
having uncomfortable conversations,
addressing this head on and say, yes, we are looking at our officiating, and yes, we realize that the game could progress in this area. We love Caitlin Clark. We consider her a big part of the league, but also we do not stand for racism and misogyny. You can actually have all those messages at once. It isn't going to come at the expense of anybody. And, the truth is, I don't think she understands, again, the complexities of when you're dealing with a league that is 70% Black, where you have a significant number of the players who also identify as queer. And that alone is reason for people to use Caitlin Clark to say and demean these women in all the ways they've been dying to, because they found a vessel to do that. And you have to acknowledge that's a problem, and that as a result, the other players in the league are being targeted for online abuse and all these other things just simply for playing. And I don't think they understand how these systems and how that works and what that shows up and what that looks like. Because listen, if people feel like Caitlin Clark isn't being protected, imagine how the Black players in that league feel right now. I think they probably have a pretty good case for feeling that as well, just based off the energy and the toxicity that they're receiving simply by existing. And, so
and the fear, it doesn't help the game. This is the bigger issue. The fear of how do I feel about how should I guard her? How should I just do what I do and just quiet the noise and just be okay, deal with the weeks and weeks and weeks of harassment from this fan base? Probably is what they're just saying. Like, let me just handle it. I see that it's par for the course. This is what happens. Is there a world where the commissioner says, to your point, we do need to look at what's happening with Caitlin Clark, right? Just believe it or not, I don't think it is out of the realm of possibility that people feel away, and that maybe she isn't, she tried to get, more bulkier during her sophomore season. That didn't really necessarily work out with her. Maybe she is being pushed around a little much, but there is a world where she does embellish. Maybe there's a world where we pay attention to that. Maybe there's a world where these referees are having these conversations before each game. Because I read in the New York Times that they did meet with the referees during the offseason, and they decided not to create any new rules for this particular issue because they felt like it wasn't necessary. I'm not saying she deserves special treatment, but what I am saying is that it's not unheard of to change the rules for players. They did it with Shaquille O'Neal.
Hello, Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan,
like probably the greatest example.
And Shaquille O'Neal, he was too dominant in the paint in another way, right? Yeah. Well, like they do it. And if it needs to be done, so be it. Do whatever it has to do. But that rule needs to apply across the board. It can't be just for CC.
Right. It's something that people would say would help overall the growth of the game. Look, free-flowing basketball is where we are. And so the WNBA needs to maybe not quite go as overboard as I think the NBA went, but I think they need to kind of really sort of crack down on some of the physicality just for the growth of the game. It's not about one player. It's about really the entire growth of the league. And this is the other thing, too, that bothers me about how things are framed. I am so sick of people saying that the women in the league, not named Caitlin Clark, need to be more respectful of her, or this idea that they need to stay in constant servitude to Caitlin Clark because of the level of popularity that she has been able to bring this game. And nobody's questioning her impact. I mean, I think she has a strong case for being the most impactful player of this generation of WNBA stars, for sure. And nobody's denying her personality, her popularity, or what she's brought. But I find it really is triggering to me how people are constantly almost wishing, much like you brought up with Christine Brennan talking about, well, she should start her own league, or other people saying, well, she should, like Boomer Esiason saying that she...
no mansplaining on this show. No mansplaining on this show,
right.
Jemele.
Or I would say the general assertion that Caitlin Clark would be better off playing overseas and she should just humble this league. See, this is something that also comes up, right? Is like this idea that Black people, and in this case, Black women, especially Black women, need to be humbled, right? Like, I can't tell you how much I hate that. And when people say that they should be grateful to Caitlin Clark, I'm often I wonder, what do you mean by grateful, and how should that gratefulness show up? Do you think that before every game, every player on the opposing team should come up and shake Caitlin Clark's hand? Should they all hand her flowers? Should they serenade her so that she feels appreciated enough for how she's helped this league take another step? I find that concept to not only have many racial undertones, I also find it to be greatly misogynistic. When Michael Jordan was becoming a phenomenon in the NBA, I don't recall a single player or a single narrative that the other players needed to be grateful that Michael Jordan helped the NBA become a global game.
In fact, they wanted their moment with Michael. They wanted to take him out. They was waiting. They was like, oh, okay, let me get on the court and see if he really is what he says he is, or is they say
they wanted to see. Is this really Air Jordan?
I want all the smoke.
I want all the smoke. That's part of competition. When Magic and Larry got the NBA off tape delay, all right, I don't recall any narratives. Now, granted, I was probably 5 or 6, so I probably wouldn't have known the narratives, but just go with me here, all right?
I'm going.
I don't recall any narratives of the rest of the players need to be grateful to Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, and they need to be more respectful and more appreciative. I saw them Lakers Celtics game. You know what? And all the rest of the league, too, including the Pistons and others. Man, they was trying to knock Magic's head off and the rest of them. Okay, they wanted to compete against them. So I'm wondering, I know the answer to this. Why are people so obsessed with the other players in the league being grateful to Caitlin Clark in particular? Why is that an obsession for them?
I said this to you, and I said it just in jest, but I literally, is it because being racist is in style? Is it because being divisive and sexist is in style? There is... Anybody who knows sports, the greatest form of disrespect is to kiss your ass on the court. That's the greatest form of disrespect.
I thought we'd all agree, Cari. I thought we all agree.
The greatest form of respect is that I'm coming for you. And I'm not treating you any differently. In fact, I'm going to go harder, because if you're supposed to be the best, or you're supposed to be this great thing they say you are.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know what? You know what, Auntie?
Mm.
Mm-hmm. You gave me that. Mm-hmm.
Because you was, and I was rubbing my knee because you was preaching. I was like, mm-hmm.
So it did. But my point is that we know what it is. We've explained what it is, and it's unfortunate. And I honestly am lying all of this responsibility on the WNBA and its leadership, and on officiating. Like, get this in check. And if they were any way sitting at home shaking their heads, like, I don't want no more conference calls, I don't want no more meetings, I want some action. I need a call to action. You see how many meetings you're probably having where nothing comes out of it? We need some call to actions, and we need some, you know what I mean? Many emails swirling around. How should we handle it? You need a call to action. You need to call somebody in who's crisis and who can help you handle it. And if they're telling you to stay quiet, you are colossally failing at your job. And you understand, look, if money is Kathy Engelbert's thing, and that's what she's supposed to do, so be it. But Kathy, and this is what I liken it to, and people can disagree. You do remember, Obama is running against Hillary Clinton, and not running against her. They're going for the Democratic nomination, and everyone is kind of on the fence. I know there were a lot of women, and it wasn't a race thing. There were a lot of women on the fence who were like, I'm riding with Hillary. Like, we were in this space of, I want to see a woman. It's time for a woman, finally a woman. And you kind of knew about Barack, but the hesitancy about whether or not Barack would be able to win was because is this country ready to elect a Black man? No way, not in my lifetime. Like, that was a very simple
It was
philosophy.
disbelief. Yeah, it was disbelief.
We didn't have the audacity to believe.
Mm-hmm.
And he was having a conversation. It was an impromptu, maybe it was an impromptu conversation about race, because the church that he had attended, the pastor had said some things and he had to address it. And he finally said, listen, let's just have this conversation. My mom's white, my dad is Black. And he had this, and only he could orate that way. Only he could articulate the story that way. But he talked about race and what race does to this country, and what, in a perfect world, what he wanted to see. And you walked away from that conversation feeling like America could be a better place because of the way in which he talked about race. And for me, this is just my humble opinion, that was when he put himself ahead of Hillary, in the sense of what he was willing to talk about that was uncomfortable. And yes, people are not going to agree. Everybody's going to disagree. It's a different time. We got social media. Everybody got an opinion. They think deeply. And a lot of the opinions that we hear, people were just now coming of age, not really focused on, when Barack Obama was running for president, people were still like 10 years old, not really kind of understanding what was going on. But in that moment, to me, it made sense. And so in a perfect world, Kathy or whomever is going to be the leadership person would have that conversation, hold a press conference, take questions, don't control the narrative. Have the honest conversation. I don't know if you've heard, authenticity is also in style, right? Along with everything else. And so when if and when she decides to do that, I think that will change a narrative, and it will change the way people handle these conversations, at least people who have these large platforms. If you want to call up the sound, because she already addressed it. And the other thing that I'll say, I'll leave it at this, because I feel like we could talk about this all day, all night. But I do believe that the WNBA, more specifically now, is going to be, and we've said this before on this show, is going to have a significant role in politics, whether they want to have it or not. Women are inclined to care about social matters and social justice. And if you think you can ignore this issue and these women not make this personal because they are Black first before they are athletes, you got another thing coming. You really do.
Yeah, this is how you know how much this story metastasized, because we ain't even gotten to Flau'jae and Angel. We haven't even gotten to that, right?
But we got 10 minutes. We
got 10 minutes. And listen, when I saw that video, this is from Seattle, Atlanta. I think Seattle, Buffy, you can double check me on this, but I think Seattle beat them pretty soundly, beat them pretty badly. And so after the game is over, Flau'jae, the game wasn't over, actually. It was still time left on the clock. And, Flau'jae is dapping up other players on the court, whatever. She goes to get some love for Angel Reese. Angel Reese was like, and gave her the Martin hand, like, talk to the hand. and walked clean away. And I was like, oh. Now, people were, okay, Buffy just put the score in there. Seattle won 105-90. So, again, they whooped them pretty soundly. People were thinking that was just about that game. I was like, oh no, that was not about that game. Like, there's been a frostiness between these two for a minute. And I don't know if people have directly asked either one of them. And I don't know that anybody asked Flau'jae about this after the game, or maybe, and this kind of relates to the last thing we were talking about. One thing that's very clear and why the WNBA cannot establish its own narratives is because there's frankly not enough reporters who cover the WNBA, reporters and columnists who cover the WNBA on a regular basis. By cover, I don't mean just talk about it from afar. I mean going to the games, talking to the players. They have probably one of the smaller media contingents, which was pretty clear during the CBA negotiations, where you had like basically 5 reporters who were covering this round the clock. And so this, for people who don't know, Angel Reese's mama and Flau'jae's mama were kind of going at it on social media. This was a while ago. And I believe that it was Flau'jae's mom who essentially took some shots at Angel Reese about her alleged grade point average at LSU. And it was clear that something ain't right. Something is infected in the pool of friendship. I don't know that they're friends any longer, but you've talked about this before. Cari is like, I mean, they ain't got to be friends. Like, they ain't got to be cool. It's like, sometimes things happen and the friends that you had one day, you're not friends anymore. But I found that to be extremely interesting that it finally kind of showed up.
Well, did you see the game when Angel Reese was still playing at LSU? She got suspended for a game. Do you remember that?
I do. And they never explained what that was about.
That's right? Family business. None of our business.
That was family business. They never explained what that was about. And there were all sorts of rumors, one of which was that academically something had happened, right? And so that's what sort of, not at the time, I don't think it was at the time, but not maybe close to it, that Flau'jae's mom kind of put that out there like, your girl ain't going to class, just saying or whatever. And when mamas get involved, it just takes the beef to another level.
I saw the meme. And you're like, when I tell my mom something and I tell her not to tell nobody, and then she's reporting live in front of the White House. You tell your mama something.
All your business.
You tell your mama something, you say, don't tell nobody. She's like, going live for the Globe? Yes, okay, yes. My daughter just said that she don't like so-and-so.
Or how moms are too, is that in defense of you,
sure,
they come jumping off the top rope. Like my mama called the White House after I got into the trouble with Trump. She literally called the White House. Did she expect Donald Trump to pick up?
Can I talk to the president, please? Don't be talking about my baby like that.
Right.
Like, can I talk to the president? Don't talk to... That's my baby. You know what I'm saying?
If I was Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who is now the governor of Arkansas, but she was, the press secretary in the White House when all that went down. If you come across Denise, I would go the opposite way.
Because you don't want that smoke.
She want to fight her to this day because she was the one who said I should be fired. And so, when your mama get involved, it's like...
This is another wrap. You can't do... So, which also, but by the way, there's obviously more to the story we just don't know. But it's also, it's like, Angel, look, you winning right now. There's no, let's just, what could have been said is what I want to know. All she did was feed into this room. I was like, so then what happened? Because I want to know what really went down, because you've been living a life. Like, so for
Did
you
to
even acknowledge her.
Should have just said, you know what, just for the sake of optics,
She just could have gave her a head. You know how we do the head. What's up? It didn't have to be. She didn't even shake her head. She didn't even,
now, Cari Monique's champion.
That would have been me. Don't ask me. I am. Don't ask me about what I would have.
You asked me now, Cari Monique's champion.
Your question was, ma'am, what she should have done. What I'm going to do is different.
It's different.
Jemele, no, I don't like, but 4.2 people, and that's on a Wednesday. And so she literally, I remember our mutual, your best friend, but our mutual good friend Kelly bought me a shirt one year for summer that said, I like coffee, my dog, and 3.5 people. I hollered. I was like, that's on brand. But I probably would have tried to I would have made an attempt. Perhaps, no, I wouldn't have. No.
I'm like, now, Cari.
Now,
Cari, you know, but because that's the other thing too, is that if you see, I know, I'm pointing at you like, that's the other thing too. If you got beef with somebody and they ain't your people's like that,
you
fake?
hold it.
It is. Right. You just
like, you hold it.
You know I don't fool with you, so why are you even coming over here?
It's interesting. The only time I'll make amends with somebody is when I start to feel sorry for them. Because I'm all like, oh, you're floundering. Like, okay, it's all right. Fine.
Because you feel like, let me take my foot off their neck real quick.
Yeah, or it's just like, it's not even worth it anymore because you forget. I'm like, I forgot why I didn't like you no more. Like, what? I don't even know what it was. I forgot. What happened when I decided I didn't fool with you no more? So with that being said, we've had, I don't know. I hope I don't really have a sense because I'm so enthralled, but every time there's something happening, I'm like, girl, did you see? Did you see? And it is because of the way in which these small moments are being made into larger moments. And I think that the more we have these moments, we won't make it such a big deal. There was a moment, this past weekend when Olivia Miles and Paige got into it, and she's like, what you gonna do? And Olivia Miles was like, I'm a rook, you can't punk me. And she even understands that rule, right? There's this rule, like, you get hazed as a rook. People gonna be like, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? Especially somebody getting the kind of attention she gets. But
I was about to say, especially because that attention has really increased because of the way that she's playing. Now people are like, oh, okay, that's what you're trying to do.
You not that. Like to the point earlier, like the highest form of respect is to try you. So we can't put Caitlin in a glass case. You know what I mean? We got to try you because everyone says you all that. So let me figure it out. That's this unspoken language that happens in sport. And I think it's interesting that they were getting mad at Olivia because Fee was trying to calm her down or have a conversation with her. And Fee handled it very professionally, but Olivia waved her off. Emotions can get the best of you.
Oh, that's going to be a conversation in the locker room.
Girl,
right?
That's going to be.
People going to be like, I get you feeling yourself, young buck, but let me holler at you.
Girl, and the comments told her too, because these fans ain't going to let nothing ride. They done slowed it down. And for those of you who are looking, for those of you who are looking for the last 2.5 seconds of what has happened, here it is. Tell me your thoughts. So they not playing with them.
Well, and then I wish they wouldn't apply a different standard to women, because you just mentioned that, like, people, that's part of sports, is like you being great, people trying you. The other part is that you kind of like to see great players overcome something, right? Yeah. Like Magic Johnson had to overcome the Tragic Johnson. Right. You like to see that tension of great player meets big mountain. Can they climb it? What gets in their way? That is what makes sports compelling. And all of this talk about making things easier for Caitlin Clark and doing all this, it's like that goes against the narratives. And so Olivia Miles, because of all the attention, she got her moment. And now she knows. I mean, she probably knew this a little bit before this game.
We've seen this. Mm-hmm. Remember when Sloane was coming up, Sloane Stephens, I'll take it to tennis. It happens all the time. And she beat Serena. She had her moment. Yeah. How she handled that moment, she was like, oh, okay. Like, it's just like, let's just all grow, because someone will remind you quickly, you just got here, we love you and all. But I just hate the idea that people haven't paid enough attention to sports to understand that there is just some unwritten rules that happen. And there are things and it's just the flow of the game and the flow of the sport. And if they are that great, they overcome and they figure it out. The race of it all really, and then if people accuse us of race baiting, but like, my job is to point out what's so obvious. Like, I would love to just, you and I, for the better part of Caitlin's career, have really given her the benefit of the doubt. We've liked her. We've admitted that she has changed the league. And then when you say anything outside of that narrative, for the people who are in this echo chamber, it really does upset them. And it's unfortunate. And I was thinking about who could handle this. And I'm going to throw this name out here. And I'm even talking about the Flau'jaes and the Angel Reese beef of it all, or the things that, who could come in and take over and really, really, at least on the outside, install some sense of stability and give it a course correct. Who could do that?
I'm afraid of... Ooh, Dawn Staley.
Buffy said Oprah. Oprah can't do that. Oprah damn near 2 seconds away from getting canceled, if not canceled.
Oh my God.
She's been canceled a few times.
They be on Oprah.
Oprah can't do it. Oprah go come in there and start telling stories that don't nobody want.
Dawn Staley as WNBA commissioner.
What about that, friend? Dawn Staley as WNBA commissioner. She done raised some of these babies.
Yes.
These new babies that's coming in there.
Yes, she has. Yeah. And she just carries such a level of respect. Not just among players.
Describe. Yes.
Because listen, leagues don't tend to hire commissioners who are too player friendly. Like, your job is to work for the owners. But I think in the WNBA's case, they need to hire someone who can bring sort of both, who can connect with both groups.
Yeah, you can't use the NBA model. You can't use the NBA model to govern a group of women. You can't use the type of commissioner and what they deem important to be the commissioner. You might, and I don't know if you put in another title underneath commissioner to do the business of it all, right? Maybe a commissioner of business. And
they have they have deputy commissioners. It's just more like maybe you change responsibilities.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, this one is going to be the face, the mouthpiece, the crisis PR of the league.
But the El Jefe should be Dawn. I'm gonna throw that out there.
Dawn Staley.
You can keep that. Chew on that. Get back to me.
Yeah. Only thing is, there's no.
She's not gonna leave coaching, but she's not gonna do it.
She's not gonna leave. She's not gonna do it. But I don't know. Like, I do think it would go a long way if it were a former player. I completely believe that the next commissioner should be a former player.
But someone who is not scared. Someone who has made some money. Someone who can go back to coaching or going back to their professional career. Someone who leads truly for thinking of the greater good of all. And I'm not saying that all former players would be scared, but someone who doesn't feel like, I don't want to ruin this position and cares more about what's going on the court.
And somebody who has a vision for what the WNBA should be 30 years from now, right? It's in the 30th year. What does it look like 30 years from now? Because I think part of the reason why the leadership has not been there is because I don't think everything was sort of year to year. Like, you need somebody who thinks the ceiling for this league, that there isn't one, there is no ceiling for this league. Somebody with imagination, creativity, and the ability to unite. That everybody, like Dawn Staley, does fit those characteristics. So, like, who doesn't love Dawn Staley, right?
Who don't love Dawn Staley? Yeah. By the way, though, you don't have to love her. That's the beauty of her. You still love her for always either showing her true self, F Gino, and then 2 days later, let's move on. No, we ain't moving on, my G, but I'm glad you moved on. Right? Well, she can live in both of those worlds and still have this respect that people appreciate because she's proven. As I say, she took the stairs. We've watched her rise. We literally have watched her rise. And very little has changed except for the focus and the aim of creating really great women to go play in this league, this professional league, a league that she dreamed of being in, and making it the league that she ultimately wants it to be for these women that she cares for so deeply.
Yeah, another example of that is, remember after South Carolina won the title, how she thanked Caitlin Clark. She thanked Caitlin Clark.
Class
act. There's a classiness about Dawn. She will do what's required for the moment, because she wants to see the game in a better place. And like,
so
you need somebody with that level of service.
Let me ask you a question.
You did. You solved it.
Because I'm like, now here you come with your opinions and ring lights, and now you in there.
Yes,
okay,
you solved it, Cari. Cari, why did they make you commissioner? You just solved the problem.
I'm available. Yes. And you're like, and another thing she do. I'm like, okay, now you in?
Now I'm running away with it. Now I got a 10-point plan for Dawn Staley. Hey, Dawn, when you become commissioner, this is the plan you need to implement. You know what, Cari?
Why cannot stand black people? Y'all get on my nerve. Oh, y'all get on my nerves. This is so typical. Yes. By the way, don't mind it. I'm a Sophie my ass off every time you get on my nerves.
Well. All right, Cari. Well, I think that's probably going to do it for us. I hate that we didn't get a chance to talk about the BET Awards either, but I'll save that for next time. That Lauryn Hill tribute, unbelievable. Anyway. That was my
next time. I guess we'll do it next time then. Next time. Right. Next time is next time.
All right. Next time is next time.
Talk to you later.
Bye.